Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video. This is also the first video I'm making with this new mic. Figured it was time to upgrade from my Yeti Blue, which I've been using for I don't know how many years, but this was recommended by a friend. It is the Shure mic. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to redo this whole office at some point, put this thing on an arm or whatever, but for now, let me know what you think. Let me know if it sounds better than my normal. Hopefully it does, because it was not the cheapest thing in the world. But yeah, so this is another Destiny video, and I wrote an article yesterday called "The Answer, Unfortunately, is Destiny 3." And it's kind of a weird headline, but I think we all know what the question is, and that is how to fix Destiny, how to turn the situation around when everything is kind of really down and really not looking great in many ways in the wake of the Bungie layoffs here, in the wake of a final shape delay and kind of an unknown future after that. This ended up being a pretty popular article, shared a lot. It made Destiny 3 trend on Twitter. So I figured I would go a little bit deeper into it. I spent a long time in that article, but obviously video format ends up being like, I don't know, 5 times as long as any article is. So I think there's more to discuss here. This is obviously not the first time I or anyone has talked about Destiny 3. We've talked about the possibility for it in the past. I had my long-running theory that Bungie was just going to do more Destiny 2 expansions up until maybe the next console generation, and then eventually they do a Destiny 3, which may still be the case, but I think we're in a different situation now. And the events of this past week, or last week, really kind of changed the calculus, I would say, in terms of, we were talking about the survival of Bungie at one point, where leadership actually said if the Sony deal did not go through, the entire company may have been at risk given how poorly Destiny is performing now. And I've also noted that there are a few problems with this idea of like some sort of turnaround based on Destiny Destiny 2 just, quote, getting better. I wrote today about how Season of the Witch, I think, is a top 3 season in all of Destiny. I think it does a number of things right. Hello, Evie. Why are you licking your blanket? You're so weird. And that has not really moved the needle. Like, it's, we're obviously not talking about how good Season of the Witch is. We're talking about all these other issues. And everything is being put on the final shape. I've talked about this before, too, where there's going to be this long delay up until the final shape, which will result in more revenue loss, more player fall off, and then after the final shape, it is an ending, so you're going to get more player drop off there. The point of Destiny 3, and why I see it as really the only kind of potential salvation, no pun intended, for Destiny as a franchise, is because I cannot see things continuing the way they are and having it get any better. If we keep going the way we're going, even just improvements within Destiny 2 do not seem like they're going to be enough to reverse the trends that we've seen with 7 years of the game here. They can switch from seasons to episodes, and those will be easier for people to get on board with because they're not chronological or whatever, and there will be more story stuff in them because they're longer instead of this 3-month rotation. We really do not know if they're going to continue to do large Destiny expansions, even though that has not been said. Even with all this trouble, I still think that is the plan, to do more Destiny expansions. I think they have a whole arc planned in Destiny 2, but I am very concerned that that is not really going to change anything. And I don't know if it will slow declines. I certainly don't think it will reverse declines, because we are about to hit what is undoubtedly going to be a drop-off after the final shape. Like, we can head into the episodes, but there is going to be significant loss after the final shape. And then what happens when there is a new expansion? It's still within Destiny 2, and we still have these giant chunks of content missing. I don't see it changing the calculus here. And a lot of the most common solution, I've probably even said this in the past, is one of the big problems with Destiny is there's no way to get into it because they deleted the first 2+ years of content. But the sheer amount of time and energy it would take to get all of that back into the game, I do not think would produce the result that everyone maybe thinks it would. I think it would be better for the health of the game, but is putting the Red War campaign and Forsaken back in going to significantly increase onboarding, like, hey guys, come play this campaign from 7 years ago, and then all these other expansions, and then maybe you'll get into, the current flow of Destiny. I think it is good, and I still think it was bad to erase that stuff in the first place, but I don't know, given the sheer amount of work it would take, and it is a lot more work than you imagine it would be, I don't believe that would actually change much about the current situation. So this is why I arrive at Destiny 3. And it's not just Destiny 3 as in, okay, we get another expansion, seasons, another expansion, then it's Destiny 3. To actually build a Destiny 3 would require actual time off. And, while the player base can take time off at will and go play a bunch of other stuff as they have this year, Destiny 3 cannot get made unless Bungie itself also takes time off from seasonal content. Because right now, a huge chunk of the company, like the majority of the company essentially, is working on never-ending seasonal content and working on usually the next big expansion. And that is it. There was no room to work on anything else. There was no, as far as I know, there are no remotely immediate plans for Destiny 3 or, formulating something to move in that direction. And this would be, a giant risk because obviously if players are dropping off now when there is still new content, it would really just cease to exist if Destiny went into maintenance mode for a while. But if we were talking about the long-term health of the game, I do not think there is any other meaningful solution that can happen except a full sequel, another fresh start, and significant changes and additions. I think they can learn from all of the stuff that has happened so far. You can launch the game with loadouts. You can launch the game not screwing up random rolls and putting snipers and shotguns in the heavy slot. You can retain all of the knowledge from base Destiny 2, but allow a clean slate. And that can mean we open Destiny 3 in an entirely new galaxy, all new worlds. We have, new enemy races. Like, this is stuff that takes years to develop, but it is something that is not just continually adding on to Destiny 2. Slowly things get subtracted with seasons and, these incremental changes that are not going to move the needle. We have seen many, many positive changes to the game. We all cite Lightfall as like the big disaster, but like even Lightfall gave us loadouts, gave us Strand. It was a great new subclass, but nothing has fundamentally kind of reversed these declines. And what you get with a clean slate is you have veterans who have now taken a significant amount of time off from Destiny. They've played other things, maybe we're playing Marathon, whatever. And then Destiny 3 comes out and you're like, all right, let's head back. Let's see, what Bungie cooked up this time. New player onboarding. It is a new sequel, so you can start from whatever the base campaign of Destiny 3 is and get on board, and you're like, oh, this game is great. I don't think you can do that with starting Destiny 2 right now. It's a mess to start it right now in the middle of things, and then, again, even adding Red War, I don't think that would fix the problem either, because that is a 7-year-old campaign. To me, this feels like the one thing that could potentially fix the issues, because I'm worried that no matter what the quality of Final Shape is, no matter what the plan is moving forward, it is going to be this slow decline down, and all of the problems are going to remain in place. Everything will rely on, Marathon and all these other IPs. I do not believe Bungie could really do this if they were independent, because it's essentially like shutting off a revenue switch, but this is where the Sony deal comes into focus. And I don't think Sony has done a particularly good job, like, in their theory of acquiring Bungie, in their use of Bungie so far. This idea that they bought Bungie and they assumed Destiny would just print infinite money, and also Bungie could help all their single-player studios make live games. That was very idealistic and naive, I think, because it is way harder than that. I think Bungie can give good tips, but it takes a lot more than that to cultivate a bunch of live service games, which I don't even think is a good plan for Sony in the first place. But, what do you see with Sony? Sony allows its developers to go years between games. No one is demanding that we get loads of live content between God of War sequels or between Last of Us sequels or between Spider-Man sequels. You might have like an expansion or something, but given that Destiny has been on this live service treadmill forever, they're building the road in front of them as they're driving, and it never stops. They never can pull over and take a break. Players are free to take a break whenever they want, but Bungie has to keep going and going and going, because if they stop fully, no more revenue. But with being owned by someone like Sony, that kind of partnership should allow something like a full sequel to be developed. Yes, it would not be Destiny printing money, the way it currently is for Sony, but if Sony wants to make, the Bungie purchase valuable and support the studio as they move into other IPs while retaining Destiny as a brand that is not viewed as constantly in decline, no matter what they're adding, no matter the quality, it's still just, I think what we've seen is quality is not necessarily enough to sustain it. And, I could be wrong. Like, the Lightfall had an incredibly high peak player count. It had high sales. So maybe if the final shape can do that, it will at least temporarily reverse these things. But it is hard for me to see a long-term future without Bungie being able to take some sort of significant break and develop not just seasonal content, not just an expansion, but a fully new product in the Destiny universe. Because I don't think you can make Destiny 2 by itself last, 8, 9, 10, 12 years. Like, you will have to hit the reset button at a certain point. And what I don't want to happen is for them to pull an Overwatch 2 where it's just, actually, okay, well, this expansion, now it's Destiny 3, and here's some giant patch to change a bunch of things, but, it's essentially a number upgrade. And for all the Activision problems, Destiny 2 was a full sequel. It launched very badly in terms of a lot of the systems it came up with, but the hope is that you would take all the knowledge from Destiny 2, you would take the time you need for a full sequel, even if it's years, and then you come back with the IP refreshed, able to onboard new players, able to get veterans back who have been missing Destiny because it's been gone essentially for a few years and only in maintenance mode where we're all playing PvP and Gambit just for fun. Again, maybe I'm being too idealistic and that would not fix anything. I just don't agree with the counter argument that, making a Destiny 3 is no different than improving on Destiny 2, because I think a lot of this is psychology, and it feels like this forever treadmill that is constantly going downhill, and the narrative is just always that Bungie's not delivering, and even if that's not even true, it's still just like kind of the philosophy, and like Destiny's impossible to get into as a new player, which is true. And it's this never-ending cycle. And I do think there are larger problems. This is not really touching on the Bungie layoffs because you have less people now to build a sequel. And you have very clear problems in leadership that maybe, you don't develop a good sequel if your leaders are not good. And that really seems to be the case among the higher level of leadership at Bungie right now. Something that was not really talked about much, past a few months ago to any meaningful extent. But now, boy, I've been talking to a lot of people at Bungie that have not been happy with leadership, both past and present employees. And I think all of these problems were bubbling up behind the scenes forever. So obviously the first step in all of this is fix the culture there, get some of these leaders out and replaced by people who, can do things better. I'm not going to start naming all the names because I don't even know the exact people that are the problem necessarily all the time. Everyone comes to Pete Parsons because he's a CEO, but there's lots of higher level people, lots of managers, whatever, that are not doing what they need to. So that is the obvious first step, but I'm speaking as a player in terms of what I think would be a very hard choice to make by stopping essentially development on a live service game for a period of time, but doing so to try and save the franchise as a whole rather than just seeing decline, even if you're working, like Bungie's working really, really hard. Like, the seasonal stuff is bigger than it's ever been. They're busting their ass on the final shape. Like, they're trying to format these episodes to make it better. Like, they're really trying, but I don't know if this is just, shoveling sand in the desert. It feels like it is not the answer, and it is not going to reverse the current problems we're seeing. I hope it does, because I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think they're going to do what I'm saying. I do not think they're going to take a years-long break and make Destiny 3. I am not a business development expert, obviously. This is just my opinion as an analyst and as a 10-year Destiny player, but everything I'm sensing is that they are just going to keep kind of doing the standard quo and just hoping future changes make things better, make people come back. A good expansion will make people return. Good seasons will make people subscribe to the seasonal model. I just don't know if I think that's going to work. But those are my expanded thoughts on Destiny 3. Obviously not the last time I'll talk about it, but I do think this is a much different situation than we've seen in the past when we talk about Destiny 3, given all the recent events. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know how my mic did here. I think it's okay. I need a new camera, obviously, and new lighting. I'm very unprofessional, but I'm doing my best. All right, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.